Welcome to the final episode of the EpicTV Avalanche Awareness Series. In our previous videos, we looked at planning your trip and minimizing your risk of avalanche danger. In this film, we're going to look at what happens if things go wrong and you or someone in your group gets caught in an avalanche. What most people want to know is, what does it actually feel like to trigger an avalanche? Then what's the best way to ride out on your feet? And what to do if you think you can't escape?
Donc, lorsqu'une avalanche arrive, on a souvent la sensation que le manteau neigeux s'affaisse en dessous de ses skis. Et puis, il peut y avoir également un bruit, comme un bruit sourd, qui permet d'alerter que l'avalanche vient de se déclencher. Donc la première chose à faire lorsqu'une avalanche arrive, c'est de crier pour prévenir ses compagnons qu'il se passe quelque chose et qu'ils puissent eux-mêmes se mettre à l'abri rapidement. Ensuite, c'est d'essayer de s'échapper latéralement en gardant de la vitesse pour pouvoir se sortir de la coulée. Et puis ensuite, lorsqu'on se rend compte qu'on ne peut plus rester stable sur le manteau neigeux, c'est d'essayer tout de suite de se protéger le visage pour, en définitive, garder une poche d'air autour du visage pour pouvoir attendre le plus longtemps possible que l'on soit retrouvé.
If you're not equipped with a device that makes you searchable, your chances of survival once buried are greatly reduced. Yeah, avalanches are scary, even if it's not you that's in them. That's why it's really important to have a pre-planned routine. If you see an avalanche, shout a warning and then look for a last seen point. One person should then assume charge of the group. Call for the rescue services. First, to ensure professional help will arrive as fast as possible in case of life-threatening injuries. This is because often a victim will need urgent medical attention once they've been extracted from the avalanche. The rescue services are also well equipped with high-performance kit as well as medical materials which will allow them to take necessary care of the victim. Secondly, for if any reason no transceiver signal can be received, rescuers will always bring reco detectors and more people to pinpoint and dig out burials as fast as possible. Then this is the key. Make sure everyone turns their transceiver onto search mode. Pete, we've simulated a small soft snow avalanche down here. You're in charge. Talk us through a transceiver search.
Well, I've heard that rescue services has been called, and I can see it's a very small avalanche, so any residual danger I'm not worried about to the rescuers. So let's pull our transceivers out and put them on search, please. Our electronic devices are off, there's no interference. I'll tell you what, we need to get further down because we're not picking up a signal yet. First thing we're doing is we're looking for the signal. So we call that our course search. It's all about covering all the terrain of the avalanche. We don't want to miss anything. When the time we get to the bottom, we want to make sure that we've covered every inch of it. You really need to comb the debris at the same time with your eyes to make sure you don't see a pole or an arm or a person. Once you have a signal, that's the second phase of the search. We call it flux line search, or second phase. All you're doing is making the numbers small on the transceiver and following the arrows. In this situation, it was so small, theoretically it would come right down the center. If it was bigger, then if you got more resources, you can spread people out, no more than 20 meters between them or 10 meters to the edge and go down the avalanche. If it's so much bigger, you can all zigzag to create those corridors. By 10 meters, you should be slowing down quite a bit. If you're on your skis, you'd probably start at 20. Down by 10, half speed. By 5, you should be walking. And by 3, we change our mode. 2-3, 2-1, 1-9, 1-6, 1-5, 1-4, 1-1.9, 1. The final phase of the transceiver search is the pinpointing or find search. This is where we get down to the snow, happens 3 meters away, and we move close to the target and begin our bracketing. I will come in on one plane, on one path. I'm looking for the lowest number, and then I'm looking for where it jumps to the next highest number. I make those 2 marks, I go to the center, and then I'll go at a 90-degree angle. Make 2 more marks. That's where the two numbers have jumped. It's really important to keep going well and truly to make sure the signals are going up again. Sometimes you get many low points. I've got 4 points. Once I've got a center point of that, I'll always put something down because that's where I'm going to probe. If I'm on my own, it's just good practice because I'll have to take my pack off. I don't want to miss that point. I'm done with my transceiver. That's where I probe first. Good probing technique is make sure the probe is fully assembled before you start. Probe first at the target, the place that you marked in the snow. Probe at a 90-degree angle to the snow surface. That's very important, especially if it's deep. After the first hole, pick the probe up, move it 25 centimeters up the hill, make another hole all the way to the bottom. Next hole to the right of that, 25 centimeters, you create an outward spiral pattern. When you hit the target or anything, yell strike, leave the probe in place. That becomes where you start to dig. Strike.
Got a strike?
Yeah. Shoveling technique can vary depending on what your resources are. If you're alone, you're going to have to work hard and fast, chopping away systematically and removing the snow out to one side is the quickest method. If the target is less than 1 meter away, you're aiming right for the bottom of the probe. If it's deeper than that, then we check the depth and we're going to go 1 to 1.5 times below the probe before we begin digging. When we have other resources, such as a second person, then we can go side by side. We know we're going to have to pull somebody out of the snowpack, which is a pretty large area. We're always looking to clear the head and chest. That's going to be the primary thing, so we have to be able to make sure that they're breathing. If they're not, we're going to have to help them breathe. Can see them. Get them all the way out. We're going to have to excavate this much further. Let's pull that out as well. Once you've assessed whether they're breathing or not, often looking for a plug of snow in their mouth is a common thing that can help them breathe. Next thing you want to do is check them for any other injuries. Careful handling is important, particularly if they've been in the snow for very long for hypothermia.
Great, well, we've dug him out, but obviously this isn't a real person, this is a simulation. If we did have a casualty, what would we have to do now?
Well, our priority is taking care of them. The journey has just begun. We've got a long way to go. That's why we contacted emergency services on the onset. Now we have to take care of the victim. So it's all about airway and circulation and any other life-threatening injuries.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you for joining us on this Avalanche Awareness series. Remember, this is about promoting avalanche awareness and safety. It's not a fail-safe set of knowledge. If you can, go on a course, do your research, and keep practicing those techniques to stay safe.